Very good morning to my dear elders, seniors, veterans, patrons, doyens of the Bank Officers Trade Union, and my dear brothers and sisters. It's a historical day indeed for the All India Nationalist Bank Officers Federation. It coincides with the Valentine Day, the day earmarked for exchanging love and affection. So, I welcome all our senior leaders and elders who have come here personally and also through Zoom to express their love and affection to the officers and employees belonging to the nationalized banks particularly, and the bank officers fraternity and the employees fraternity in general. Love and affection is more important because it enhances your commitment. I salute the senior leaders who are assembled here, who have started this federation, All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation. Purely must be because of their love towards the banking fraternity, and that might have driven them to or reminded their duty to discharge their responsibilities towards building a strong officers movement within the Officers Trade Union movement, All India Nationalist Bank Officers Federation. It was started in 2009. I really wonder what might have triggered our the then leaders who were responsible for starting this organization. Though they were part of All India Bank Officers Confederation, rather they were heading the All India Bank Officers Confederation and very actively participating in EFPU activities also. What must be the trigger point? Somewhere there, exceptional and the excess love towards the officers of the nationalist banks, that must have reminded their duty to guard their future. Yes, in 2009. Today we are seeing what is happening in the nationalist banks, nationalist bank officers. What are all the government moves in the name of reforming the banking sector? It directly, indirectly affects only the nationalized banks. The amalgamations, takeovers, mergers, it affects the nationalized banks. The government decision of non-infusion of the capital in the weak banks affects the nationalized banks. The government decision of appointing BBB to identify persons from the private sector to head this bank as a MD affecting the nationalized banks. Though they have not legally told no, but not doing the appointment of directors in the nationalized bank from out of officers community and employees community affecting the nationalized banks, and various welfare schemes, social welfare schemes being announced by this government to be implemented by nationalized banks only, and disinvestment which they are going to start now affecting the nationalized banks. So whatever steps being taken by this government in the name of reforms in the banking sector, directly it has got impact, more particularly negative impact on the nationalized banks. It has gone to an extent of even erasing and eradicating the very presence of the nationalized banks. Many banks have gone. The leaders who are sitting here, listening here, going to address, who were leading the various organizations in their respective banks, the banks themselves have become extinct. Painful, very painful. The organizations, trade unions with which they were identified, they were responsible for the very existence of the respective bank itself. Today, they vanish from the very scene. So, the government directives, it is targeting the nationalized banks only, because it must be very clear now. Whatever reforms the government of India is going to announce, it is not going to affect the presence of our big brother, State Bank of India. With the amalgamation of associate banks with the State Bank of India, they become biggest, and the government's directives and norms, announcements, they are always in favor of State Bank of India, giving additional privileges to them. Private banks, no issues. The old sector private banks are continuing in the same form, though now it is being sold to new owners. And the newly opened private sectors after 1991, they are surviving somehow, and it is not going to create any impact in the system. Whereas the privatization of the nationalized banks, it is going to create very serious impact in the economic situation of this country. My wonder is how this was forecasted by the leaders who are sitting here, how it was possible for them in 2009. In fact, in 2009, the government was not serious about all these reforms, though there were some organic developments taking place in the industry right from 2001. The real reforms started, of course, in 2001 by introducing the special VRS, but till 2014, the government of India has not taken such a serious steps towards the closure of the nationalized banks. Only in 2014, our then finance minister announced the nationalized banks which are not matching to the industry's average return on assets and return on equity will not be given capital infusion. Indirectly means those banks will be closed down, and those banks will not be in existence. It was made clear only in 2014, which was followed in the various Jnana Sangams from 2015 or 2016 onwards. But I really wonder and salute our Indian leaders who were heading the nationalized bank officers movement, thought that we must have a separate institution and IT to take care of the welfare of the nationalized bank officers. And my further wonder is, they were the patrons of they were the leaders of the All India Bank Officers Confederation too. They were the persons started the All India Bank Officers Confederation. They were at the helm of All India Bank Officers Confederation, and they were heading the EOB also. But still they thought, time has come, we should start a separate entity for the nationalized banks to take care of the officers' welfare more particularly. It's really a wonder. And whether they have forecasted the reforms by the government will affect the nationalized bank officers movement and nationalized bank to this extent or not. Now it has come. I am not sure. Our Indian leaders who are present here, they have to elaborate what was the reason. But anyhow, this became more important and imperative today. The purpose for which, the objectives with which All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation was started, the time has come to seriously look into that and to implement it. Because from last year onwards, the amalgamation took place. Very decent word, amalgamation. We are also hesitating to mention takeover or merger. But I feel it is not the merger, it is not the takeover, it is not the amalgamation. Killing of an existing institution which has got its own culture, its own past, its own role in building the economic stability of this country in the respective regions. The presence in the respective regions in building up the wealth of that region cannot be forgotten. Whether it is Vijaya Bank, whether it is a corporation bank, whether it is a Dana Bank, whether it is United Bank of India, their role in these areas cannot be forgotten. Go to northeastern states, the presence of United Bank is awesome. Go to the western parts of Gujarat, Dana Bank is a household name. Allahabad Bank, Eastern UP, the name is pronounced by every citizen. Their presence is so much. Corporation Bank, Vijaya Bank's role in Karnataka or southern parts of the country can't be forgotten. When such a presence was shown by this bank, perhaps they might not have been earning profit because of the faulty policies of the government in provisioning and prudential norms. Still, they were the persons carrying out the government programs. And if at all they faced a loss somewhere, it is purely because of the government policies, government directives. But ultimately, they became extinct today. The leaders who were heading those banks, who were responsible for formation of the All India Bank Officers Confederation, of course, who were responsible for formation of the AINBOF. It is painful. Such a bank itself, themselves are not in the place now. So, time has come. Time has come. The objectives for which we started this All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation must be in all seriousness to carry out its activities so that at least the remaining banks and the remaining structure and the remaining system will be guarded. Again, we want to do all those things in the interest of the nation only. And so, we thought now the All India Nationalized Bank Officer Federation must start its activities separately, though we could be the part of any organization which are having similar objectives. But for fighting for the exclusive demands, exclusive issues faced by the nationalized bank officers, we love to necessarily get into action. It's first of its actions. This seminar is first of its action in showing the special identity of nationalized bank officers. We are trying to bring it under three topics. The issues being faced by the nationalized banks. One is the government's recent announcement of privatizing the few nationalized banks. See the metamorphosis. They were only amalgamating. Somewhere somebody were also satisfying themselves. Though my name is gone, I am being part of another public sector bank only, another nationalized bank only. But today, the developer days, it is not going to be amalgamated with any of the existing nationalized banks. As per the announcement of Honorable Finance Minister in the Parliament, 2 nationalized banks are going to be privatized, which is being supported by our Honorable Prime Minister too. He also told that private sector also should be encouraged to be there in the country. All we have forgotten the role of public sector institutions. Fine. Anyway, being part of this nationalized banks, and the announcement is going to affect the officers and employees of the nationalized banks alone. It is the responsibility of all India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation to create awareness among the workforce, the evil effects of the privatization. And I got a very strong feeling here. More than the employees and officers of the nationalized banks, the country's economic structure and the poor strata, middle class, still forming almost 80% of the total population, and almost 70% of the agrarians in the rural and semi-urban sector. They are going to be much affected by the announcement of privatizing the banking sector. So, it is a duty of the All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation and its officers, not only as a citizen of this nation, as officers in this institution, it's our duty to create awareness among the public and take all these issues to be public, so that our owners, the general public, people of this country will also understand the evil and ill effects of privatization of the banking industry, which is possessing the capital in it, which is the important factor of the economy for development. We must take it to them. And as a first step towards this, we have organized this seminar. And we are trying to number the issues which are being faced by these nationalized banks under 3 topics. One is privatization, another is providing better service conditions, and the another very important point is to guard the retired officers who have built this economy to an extent. Nobody can deny the role of public sector banks, nationalized bank, in building about the economy of this country. If you go through any finance reports, it will say the role of nationalized banks in building the capital structure of this country. When the country was having a problem in 2009, this is nationalized banks came forward to support the corporate sector again to get flourish. And today the country has got so much infrastructure which encourages the government to invite the foreign investments. It was done by nationalized banks. But it should be understood that it was done by the officers and the employees belonging to the nationalized banks. And those officers and employees, after the retirement, their service is not properly being recognized and respected. They are driven to live in a very poor state. Comparatively, the retired officers in the banking industry, their life is miserable because of the various reasons. We will have to discuss on that also. So we have named it as a first topic is preventing the privatization to preserve the national assets. Friends, let us not here think that privatization is going to affect the bank offices and the banks. It is going to affect the national assets which will be transferred in the hands of the private. So we must prevent. It should be a movement. Securing better service condition to bank officer to save the self-esteem. Yes, it is very, very important. Officers are doing the same job, same duty, same remunerations. It is the order of the day, one of the established principle. But why it's not happening? The country has got lot of youth, well educated, and all these youth are part of this banking system today, and all were recruited through a common entrance test where they have proved their educational excellence. These people are having excellent attitude also, though they were belonging to the various disciplines, engineering, nothing related to the banking. They had the courage to enter into the banking sector, and the last 10 years, after 2010, the direct recruitment took place. They were able to prove that they can keep the bank also in a good condition. They did that. And why this discrimination? Though they were recruited through a same platform, the question of remuneration, the question of perquisites, the question of promotions, the question of transfers, why different norms being adopted by the different banks? It can't be. So the uniform perks and facilities should be extended to all the officers and employees of the nationalized banks. Why? The entire banking sector. Recently, we got the wage settlement. Good or bad, it is a point for discussion. Even if it is good, why after the implementation there is a discrimination? Some 4 increments were additionally given to the State Bank of India. It could have been justified in the yesteryears. Today, it has become totally irrelevant. The officers and employees working in the nationalized banks, they are not inferior to any other officer working in the banking system. So, they cannot post themselves in front of the either private banks or State Bank of India officers. They are bit inferior in the nationalized banks. No, to guard their self-esteem, to claim with a pride that they are the bank officers, there must be uniform remuneration, salary, perks, facilities, promotion and transfers. Very much important. So that we have taken up as a second issue. Third issue is respecting the elders who have built this bank sector. It's very important. Any tree which forgets its roots will never blossom. So the roots which dedicated their services in building up the nationalized banking sector is very, very important. We cannot permit anymore in disrespecting the elders by giving the meager sum. The persons who have built up this banking system must be respected, for which 2 major things is their pension should be updated so that they will continue to lead a decent life after the retirement. And the major expenditures after the retirement is medical, health, and that expenses also must be borne by the respective banks. These 2 are very much important to guard the self-respect and self-esteem of our elders, seniors, retired. And this is the way we can properly express our respect to the service rendered by them. So friends, we have brought these three important topics for a discussion today. A huge number of people have assembled today, and all our seniors and elders who are responsible for the formation of All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation, with the objective to serve or highlight the issues faced by the nationalized bank officers exclusively, and a huge number of youth all over the country are watching this, and we are going to publish this outcome of this seminar also in all social media, so as to create awareness among the public also the importance of keeping the guarding the nationalized banking system in this country. I welcome all of you, and I request everyone here. This is going to be conducted from 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. to actively participate, and we feel this success of this seminar will be repeated in all the major cities, so as to create a great awareness and to ensure our existence in building the economy of this country forever. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.